Hey, hello everybody. Um, okay, there we go. How's everybody doing this afternoon? Hope you've had a good day. Mine's been pleasant, good. I got no complaint. God treats me really nice. Hey, I'm trying to find a good time of the day to do these live feeds. I know people are getting off of work. I was gonna try and do it at 6 tonight, but I have an obligation, so I figure 5:30 tonight might be better. So. If anybody's watching that, you guys can, if you would like, just shoot me a message. What time might work good for you? I'm not going to be able to make everybody happy, but I'll do the best I can to get as many people that can watch it. I'm figuring around 5:30 or 6 on a Tuesday night is kind of my target time. Okay. So earlier I posted a piece about God, and it's, believe it or not, if you'd have told me 10 years ago or even 4 years ago that I'd be sitting there talking to however many people are going to see this about God, I'd have told you you're all crazy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read from the paragraph that I pulled that phrase from out of my book. It's from the chapter called the G-D word, from Getting Honest About God. So part of what I had to do to reconnect with God was to get honest with myself and others. Many terrible things had happened to me in my life, but to be truthful, I had also received a great deal of kindness from other people. Therefore, I had to stop blaming God for everything that went wrong in my life. I realized that God had never hurt me. It was people who had hurt me. In fact, there was always a spiritual presence surrounding me, even in my darkest moments, which helped me to make it through. So, when my father died, let's go back to my father died. I didn't have God in my life then. I think I was 12 years old. We might have gone to Sunday school a couple of times, but I remember being mad, but not mad at God, just mad at the world. I couldn't understand why my father, who was a hero in the fire department, he was my hero, he was well-liked, he was 32 years old, it was 1969. Why would, if there was a God, why would God take him instead of somebody like Charlie Manson, who had created those mass murders at the same time, Tate LaBianca murders at the same time. So there was a lot of confusion going on in my life. But then as the abuse started, well, after my father died and then the abuse started, I still was kind of confused, but where I got really, really dicey is when my parents became born-again Christians. Because now I'm dealing with born-again Christians. We're going to church all the time. My stepfather's a deacon in the church. And my mother's a member of the choir. Well respected within the church. And they could do no wrong. So we go to church on Sunday morning, Sunday evening. We'd have youth group on Wednesday night. We 3 or 4 times a week we were at church. But then when we came home, what we were being told and preached about, and that's not the right word. Well, what we're being taught or told in church, love thy neighbor, don't be judgmental, all that went right out the window. And so I became very confused. It's like, well, we're supposed to love each other and treat each other with respect and respect everybody, not judge everybody, but yet when I came home at night, I didn't know if I was going to be beat, if my mom was going to be beat. It became very confusing and very convoluted between what I was being taught in church, which presumably was God, and what the reality of the life was. But in my eyes at that point in time in my life, I was indeed being abused by the church and by God. In my eyes. I didn't know about self-will. I knew that the one God that I knew back then was a damning God. I had done so much wrong, there was no way I would ever have a chance to go to heaven. And so I just figured at one point in my teenage years, I'm going to burn in hell anyways. I might as well just party and have fun. And, when I was 15, I got in a bad motorcycle accident and actually died. I actually saw myself on the ground. It was excruciating pain. And once I saw myself on the ground, I remember there'd be absolutely no pain. I was surrounded in a really bright light, shrouded in just peace and serenity beyond comprehension. And I was woken up by a voice, and I believe it was God's voice to this day. It said, fight for your life, Randy. You're dying, but just keep fighting. I'm going to be with you. And I believe that then wholeheartedly. But then when I turned 18 or 25, or 18, and when I moved out of the house, I said, This is what God and the church is about: the abuse, the pastor denying, and just saying it's part of growing up. You're not going to be gay. If that's what God's about, I want nothing to do with it. And in fact, God had nothing to do with me living. I fought for my life. All right? It was my self-will. I lived only because I fought. God had nothing to do with it. That's how I lived for a long time. But yet every time I got in trouble through life, countless times, who did I always cry out to? The God that I was mad at. And because at probably 13 years old, I accepted Christ, as my Savior at that point in time. He never leaves us after that. And every time I'd be laying in bed after doing too much cocaine and drinking too much alcohol, my heart blown out of my chest. And what I learned in Betty Ford, I had overdosed, and I actually was doing lethal doses of drugs and alcohol. And I felt like I was going to die. I always called to God. And God always got me through the night. Always. I was always there the next day to live. So there's countless times. I should have gone to jail countless times. And I always called out to God that I wanted nothing to do with. When I got into recovery, AA saved my life when it comes to this. Because I was allowed to question the God that I grew up with, the God that was going to damn me into hell, the God that was throwing lightning bolts to me. And I questioned, I literally looked at religions. I looked at Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, everything I could look at. And what I realized, and what I come to conclude, is that they all have the one foundation of the Ten Commandments. The one foundation of the Ten Commandments. So I slowly was able to get my life back with God. And through that, I realized that everything that happened to me was actually a plan that God had for my life. Basically, I'm doing the plan right now. The book I wrote, talking with men that have been sexually abused. And that God did none of that harm to me. God did none of it. It was man. It was a self-will of man. God gives man self-will. I was innocent. If there was no God, I would be dead today. If there was no God, I'd been dead after the accident. If there was no God, I would have been dead one particular night when Jack yanked me out of bed at 10 o'clock at night. And I asked my brother how bad it was. He says he'd have killed you if I wasn't there. God always, it sounds funny, I know it does. But God was always around me. He always had my back. Always had my back. And I know some religious people that don't agree with that, but I mean, that's just the way it is. So, and so when I got into AA, I had to quit blaming God for everything, and just come to realize that God's a loving God. He saved me. He forgave me for the affair I had. My wife, I've been married. I'll be married 33 years. In 2004, I had that affair. I shouldn't be married right now. But because I listened to that voice on February 1st, in my head it says, Randy, your get out of jail free cards are all used up. And I believe with all my heart it was God talking to me, because he said these words, your get out of jail free cards are all used up. And only me and God knew what that meant. If I wouldn't have listened to that voice February 1st, this videotape wouldn't be happening. So, if you're struggling with the whole God thing, I know most people on there are I'm looking who's on right now. I appreciate you all being here, are believers. But if you're struggling with it, I understand it. I understand. Question it. Research it. Look for it. You know in your heart what's right and what's wrong. And just know that God is loving, kind, caring, compassionate, understanding. Okay? I don't fear God. I respect God. What I fear is my consequences if I go against God's word. Other than that, I don't fear God. So anyways, I don't know. I could keep going on about this subject. So, if you're struggling with God, that's okay. Find somebody, find a mentor, find a spiritual mentor that can walk you through those struggles. And sit down with you. And I love sitting down with people and take a look over the course of your lifetime. And every time I do this with somebody, especially I ask about the laying in bed at night with their heart blowing out of their chest, and I go, who did you call to that night? And they always, without exception, say God. I go, you're sitting here today, right? And their mouth just drops. So I hope all this makes sense. I had a workshop. I had a workshop last Saturday, my First Men's workshop. 8 guys showed up. It was this powerful, powerful, powerful success. Hey, Kevin, what's up, man? Benny, I think Paul, Bill, Robin, all you guys, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. The workshop was a success. I'm going to have a women's workshop on September 17th, and then I'm going to do a couples workshop thereafter. It was suggested that I do another follow-up men's workshop, so I'll work on that as well, and I'll let everybody know. You can get my book, naturally, at Amazon.com. And also, if you're interested in life coaching or talking to me about that, if you're stuck in your life, you just can't get past something, you need a little help getting through something, visit ChangeYourLifeStoryNow.com, ChangeYourLifeStoryNow.com. That's my webpage. I'll be glad to journey with you on whatever you might need help with, okay? So everybody have a blessed night. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I love you all. Good night.